What is up, maniacs? I am Zach, and I am the Milly Maker Maniac, and I'm still not a millionaire. It was a tough week 3. The defenses this week did me in. I had one lineup out of all my lineups with the Vikings and none with the Panthers. So pretty much was dead from the get-go without having that. It sucks because I was right on a lot of stuff this week, but defenses. If you didn't have the Vikings, Panthers, or at least Colts are better, which I had a decent amount of Colts and Seahawks, but my two highest rostered were the Packers and the Bengals. The Bengals you don't even see on here because they were negative points. I only pull people that scored more than 0 points. So -1 from this game. I was betting against the wrong backup quarterback, apparently. But yeah, that was unfortunate. But we're going to have tough weeks like that. It's just part of it. We had a great week in week 2, but we had a tough week in week 3. Really am happy with my process and everything I put into the week. Just a tough run out, but we'll go through it today and see what we can learn from this and build better lineups next week. So, just a quick breakdown of how bad it was. I got a little excited as the week went on and felt really good about the slate, so I ended up wagering more than what I talked about in my bankroll management video. That's part of being the Milly Maker Maniac. We're trying to win that Milly. So I did end up maxing out the Milly Maker, which wasn't actually my worst move. I, in large field, lost about 2/3 of my entries there, but that's not too bad. We'll take it. We'll get another big week to bring that back up. But got killed in cash. Sucks. Really happy with my lineup. We can go actually and look at that real quick. Let's go to one of the double ups. I won a couple. I was right on the money line. I ended up shifting to Mariota when it felt like he was going to be more than 50% owned at 4K. Just liked what that allowed me to do in here. And one of the reasons I was excited about that was because I felt like CeeDee Lamb was going to be chalk, and I also felt like CeeDee Lamb was going to have a huge game. Unfortunately, he scores 0 points and kills my day despite being pretty much right everywhere except at tight end. Tyler Warren was one of my big misses on the day. Like Bijan definitely wasn't a hit, but he wasn't a huge miss either. But yeah, Tyler Warren killed me. Even had a defense with a touchdown, but it wasn't the defense you needed to have. Did not think the Eagles would be that much of a low-owned group. But anyways, yeah, tough week. Felt really good about the entire process. Still feel good about the entire process, but when you get an injury before a guy scores any points and he's your highest priced player in your cash lineup, it's going to be tough to win. So that was a bummer. And I came right down to it at 154. I was right on the money line. So I actually, on a couple of the double ups, got paid out, but just missed that money line despite the 0. So very frustrating there. So that killed the week too. That would have been a nice save. If I get another 3 points there, I'm good to go for the week. But that's not how it played out. And then all of the multipliers, I had CeeDee Lamb in all of those lineups, so that killed me. Did not hit a single multiplier. In smaller GPPs, did about the same as I did in the large field GPPs. Lost about 60% of the entry, but that's to be expected most weeks. And the lotto tickets did not have any of that banked. So let's break down where we went right, where we were wrong, and what we can learn about that moving forward. So here's a breakdown of each position, the points they scored, and DraftKings points, what their salary was. And then I've gone ahead and done some correlation charting here. I'll show you some of the best stacks. Thing that's a bummer is really 4 out of the top 5 QBs were in our QBs we love, in Caleb and Gino, and May actually. And then Hurts was in guys that we like. So we had about 10 Jalen Hurts lineups. Had about 10 lineups for all these guys. Hurts did pretty well on. I had multiple lineups with him versus Puka. I had multiple lineups with him and just A.J. Brown. I had some lineups with him and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Didn't have any Goddard, but that didn't really hurt me. Even though he's tight end 8, he didn't do enough to be needed this week. So yeah, the thing that sucks though about all these ones that I hit on these, like I have really solid lineups on these, but I didn't have any of them. Most of the ones that I had, the Jalen Hurts in, I had the Bengals D at -1. So that's a 30-point deficit. So even though those lineups are really solid, because I missed so bad on defense, and this was such a crazy outlier weekend, 9 defensive touchdowns this week. Even the lineups that I still am very happy with the build and the structure to it just got absolutely canceled because of this outlier week. And if the only change I could make, if I could do just a universal swap for Packers to Vikings this week, I am very, very confident that I would have had a very good week. I think I would have had a very profitable week and probably would have had a few lineups in the 200s. Let's go and look at some of the bigger lineups just to kind of show what I'm referring to. Here's my highest scoring lineup. So here we had Hurts and Puka was that game stack. We had top 2 running backs. So Bink and Bink. Top QB off to a great start. Puka's top 5. But then I just missed so hard on Atlanta's offense. That was one of my big misses of the day. Still actually like pursuing them in the future, but a big miss on the day. But love the build of this lineup. Did get the Colts in there on this one. But still feel good about why we were on the Falcons offense. Just happened to miss there. But the structure of this lineup being the Milly Maker winner is definitely there. Obviously, it didn't play out that way, but we had, with our philosophy, we had one that had a shot. We just missed on our stack that we brought along with it. So get another one here. So Herbert lineup was really heavy on Herbert, but yeah, Walker was fine. Taylor we had right around 50% of lineups, so we nailed that. And we had that combination with the Colts, which we would have done that a little bit more. But yeah, this is Chargers Broncos stack. Didn't quite hit on the Chargers side, but had the right bring back with Sutton. And then we had two of the 3 best pieces out of the non-QB pieces out of the big game that we were trying to get a shootout out of that we just didn't quite get. We got a one-sided route. But yeah. So again, philosophy is good on this one. We just missed on our main stack on this one with Herbert, and still like that process too, and we'll still be betting on Herbert in future weeks. Just didn't quite slam dunk it this week. Okay, so let's go back. We don't need to look at all the lineups, but again, felt pretty good. Just got slaughtered at defense. Caleb built all sorts of Caleb stacks. This one feels gross to me with Luther Bird in there. Like when a guy's a core guy like Caleb was for me this week, I'm gonna build out some insane stacks. So like I was trying to find this week's Wan'Dale Robinson from week 2 and just didn't quite do it. I had plenty of Olamide Zaccheaus. I mixed in plenty of their tight ends. Not Komet, but their other one. Why am I? Oh, Colston Loveland. Don't know why I couldn't remember that for a second. But yeah, Colston Loveland. So I had like the guys that were low percentage. Just Burden wasn't getting any snaps, so I just didn't see this coming at all. So I am bummed that I didn't have that. But the correct stack out of that game, really, the only stack that came out of that game that's surprising, is Caleb Williams to Luther Burden, and then Jake Ferguson on the comeback. But like we were right on Caleb, but it was such a unique combination that we ended up having the right one. Yeah, Luther Burden would have been a hard one to get to this week. I don't fault our process on that. He was only 0.13% owned in the highest rostered game of the week. So it's not that bad of a miss. It's just an unfortunate one because we built so many Caleb stacks and he's QB2, and we didn't really get to reap the rewards of that. So that's kind of an odd run out for the week. Had tons of Geno. I feel so cheated by this Trey Tucker because I was all over Geno having a good week, and I was all over a non-Jacoby Myers wide receiver having a big week, but I thought it was going to be Devontae Thornton. So I had him in probably 20-ish lineups spread across all my lineups. If I could have just changed that to Trey Tucker, like I was right there. Really felt like it was going to be the secondary receiver just based on how bad the Washington secondary is outside of Amos, and it's just didn't quite play out. I had one lineup with Trey Tucker in it, but that lineup also had CeeDee Lamb in it, and it had Cincinnati's defense in it. So even that lineup did not make any money. Pretty frustrating because all over both of these guys, but didn't have the correct stack for either because it was such an obscure stack. That'll happen some weeks. I think one thing we can learn is to, especially in earlier weeks in the future, we don't really know the rotations when the rotations are still kind of like establishing themselves. When we're high on a QB, expand their target tree, their like players that we will stack with on those core plays. So one of the nice things about Hurts is you can play him naked and you can play him basically single stacked. Like you could have double stacked and been okay with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith this week, but most weeks a skinny stack with Jalen Hurts it works just fine because he's going to, most of the time when he's QB1, he has a couple tush pushes in there, so he's not necessarily going to bring a lot of people along, but you know where his targets are going. It's going to these three guys as well as Saquon. So it's easy to stack him, whereas with Caleb, it's proving to be a little less or a little more difficult. And Geno, this is just a crazy outlier week with Tucker. So also pretty high on Drake May, top 5. Had a few Henry lineups with May there. But yeah, I kind of missed at tight end because I was about same amount of weight on Taylor as I was on Tyler Warren. Finishes tight end 19. Really didn't see a scenario where he was outside of tight end 10. The game just kind of played out weird. All the games played out a little weird too because of the defensive scores. And I especially think like we had a lot of onslaughts as if this Bears Cowboys game was going to go off. And honestly, if it wasn't for the turnovers, I think we would have got that. We would have got guys like and Jake Ferguson getting there. And Javonte Williams, like if Javonte Williams had that fumble and they score on that first drive, we would have, I think, seen a much more of a back and forth battle there and would have had more lineups moving up than what we ended up having. Still like betting on that game environment. It was very close to being what we thought it was going to be. It was just a few key turnovers took away a lot of points, and that changed the complexion of the game. I think the Bears are ready to push for more points if they needed to, but they slowed it down a lot in the fourth quarter, especially after that George Pickens tip ball interception really killed the momentum of that game getting to where we needed to get to. And same thing for the Chargers. Like I was all over the Chargers receiving core. I did have a decent amount of Amari and Hampton. Like when I was building Bronco stacks, I would do Hampton plus a receiver. So I had this Hampton Allen combo a couple times. I also had the J.K. Dobbins Cortland Sutton combo quite a few times as well. But that game, there's a couple turnovers in the red zone that if those were touchdowns, that game also could have gone off as well. So really the only game that there was real strong game stack potential for was this Eagles and Rams games. Could have gone Puka and Kyron and Hurts and A.J. Brown, which I actually had a couple times, but they didn't even cash because I missed everywhere else on those ones. Frustrating at running back. I mean, these were 2 out of my top 3 highest rostered guys. Missed on the Falcons offense. I mean, Bijan at 8 is definitely a miss, but he didn't like absolutely kill our lineups. Christian McCaffrey, like at RB4 at his price, like we didn't miss anything there, so we were fine. Really, we at running back, our core play was on the money. We could have leaned into it even a little bit heavier, honestly, with Taylor and Mason. Like, didn't want to get too heavy on it, but I felt really good about Taylor being RB1 this week. So I was all over that. It's frustrating to hit that and hit that by a 10-point gap, and it just happened with this defensive explosion. It's crazy to have so many teams in double digits. Like most weeks it's one or two. So like if we go, I think I have week 1 still pulled up. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, there's a few last week, but no, sorry. It's the wrong one. Yeah, here it is. Ravens had 15, Seahawks 14, Patriots. But there wasn't anybody that like killed you. And most everybody else was middling around the 8. So like I can compete. I can make up a 7-point deficit if I'm in this like 8 range, which I was in a lot last week up against 15. But this week, my 8 against 30 just destroyed my lineups, knocked me off the cash line on a lot of stuff. So that's unfortunate, just part of it. An odd week. So let's pull out from this a little bit, or let's go through receiver real quick. So Tucker, huge outlier. He was only 0.58% owned. So I beat the field on that. Also, I mean, I beat the field on everybody here except Nico. But Nico feels like a guy you didn't. He was 10% drafted, but those lineups, like, you didn't need to dodge Nico at 7,300. There was guys that are basically the exact same right around him that made more sense to go after. So I don't feel bad about Nico at 3. I'd rather have AJ Brown or Puka still, even knowing Nico's going to be wide receiver 3. You didn't have to have him at that price, and that matchup didn't really make sense. So happy with the fade there. Was on both these guys above market. Burden we missed. I mean, I had a little bit of Wilson. I think I actually probably was around 5%, so beat that too. Ricky, I was a little less than 10. Jackson Smith, I was higher than. Devontae, I was higher than. Keenan Allen, I was higher than. Like, we were all over receivers. We just missed the top one, and that's what killed us. We had everything except 1 and 3, but all around it, we were all over it. I guess 1, 3, and 7 are really what killed us, even though those were 2 of them were spots that we were very interested in. And at tight end, Hunter Henry with a rare 29 spot. Yeah, don't see that spot from Hunter Henry very often. For him, you're hoping more for like a 15 spot, but he put it up. We're all over Jake Ferguson. Had a little bit of Hawkinson. But, yeah, McBride didn't need to have. Jawan would have been a better play. But pretty much you had to have Ferguson or Henry this week. I had a decent amount of Ferguson, so we didn't necessarily miss that. Just too heavy on Warren. But this is where we died. Defense killed us. We had none of this, very little, some of this, but then everything else we were way down here. I was primarily Jaguars and Houston, which those were both decent weeks. Like Jaguars with a 12, we'll take that. Texans with a 5. Most weeks that's going to be fine too. I had a decent amount of the Chargers too. But, yeah, didn't play out well on defense. That's part of it. Pulling out, looking at which stacks were the best. Like QB to wide receiver, this was probably the most like gettable one this week. Hurts and Brown, which I was way above field on. Right there would have been, that's 55 points between 2 players. If you add Devontae in it, he was wide receiver 10. That's 76 points between 3 players. And then you had the comeback with Puka and Kyron, 45 and 75. That's 110 points between 5 players. So for your next, with the other 4 roster spots, you just have to put up 80 or so. So it's a good start. Yeah, there's still, obviously, if you take just the top one at 55 for Hurts and A.J. Brown, and then you take Puka, so that gets you to 80 points. 80 points for 3 players, like then that's a really good spot. We get to a similar spot here where we would get to 60. What's that? 50. Yeah, it was like 63 points between 3 players. Just burden was hard to get to, but the concept is still there. The Bronco game was another one we could have game stacked with running back and receiver on both sides. That would have got us 86 points between 4 players. Here was really the one that would have been nice. We had more than the field, but our one lineup just fucking had CeeDee Lamb in it, so that's part of it. But 70 points between 2 players right there. 50 points between 2 players right here. I had the combo of Taylor and the Colts D a decent amount of times. So that's 50 points right there between 2 players. But the one that really would have saved me, like I had a ton of Jordan Mason, but just none of that D. 56 points between your running back and your defense. That'll do it most weeks. Frustrating when to get there. A little bit of a game stack, or team stack between McCaffrey and Pearsall. 45 points between 2 guys. And then Seahawks really liked our process on getting to this offense. Liked it a lot, but the complexion of the game was they were so dominant that the second half they didn't keep pushing. So I think that all these numbers, if they would get any pushback from the Saints, which we knew that was a possibility, but that kind of capped these from getting big numbers. But crazy to think you'd have running back, 2 wide receivers, and a defense, but not the quarterback at all from that game. But Kenneth Walker with 2 goal line touchdowns. If like both of those go to Horton and Smith, Walker has a crap day, but then that would have brought Darnold in, and that would have been more usable. But the concepts remain. We see it every single week where you can get a group of 2 to 5 players from one game that all hit. So that's why we're looking to stack, because if we get those stacks right, then all we got to do is find those other good spots, which we were on a lot of good offenses. Like our main offenses this week were the Colts, were the Chargers, which that didn't play out nearly as well as I wanted it to, but it still was okay. We were on the Bears. We missed on Burden, but the concept was correct. We were on the Cowboys were one. Obviously disappointing from them overall, but you still had a piece that you could have pulled out of that game with Ferguson. This game, I felt like if these players were going to be in it, like if any player came out of this game, I felt like that meant it was going to be a back and forth game. So if it was back and forth game, I thought like it would be multiple players from this game, and that came to fruition. So all my Hurts lineups were big like game stacks, and they were really solid. Really happy with those builds. Had about 15 of those built out and hit this a lot, but just missed so bad on defense that it didn't matter. So the concepts are there. The Patriots are an offense that we were on. Had plenty of that stack. And then, we were all over Jordan Mason too. So all over, like our research this week showed out. It was just we missed on the defense and some weird game flows. Like we're always trying to anticipate different game flows, different outcomes, but it's hard to anticipate 9 defensive touchdowns. So tough week, but we will get back to it next week. We'll see. Probably be a little less than this number this week, but again, feel good about the process. Feel good about where we came out with our player pool. We just missed bad on defense. That's really what it all came down to this week. We were right in a lot of places, just wrong at defense, and we missed our 2 biggest stacks, wide receivers with quarterback stacks. We just missed on the wide receiver with Luther Burden and Trey Tucker, and it was honestly just a tough week to hit on it. So that happens some weeks as part of DFS, but we will be back this week in week 4 to take down that Milly. Subscribe, hit that smash button on the subscribe button. We will have a couple videos this week. Each week I do a game-by-game breakdown, and then I will break down my player pool as well as go over my cash lineup later in the week. Appreciate you all for watching. Please leave questions in the comments. I'll address those in future videos. You can also email me questions at millymakermaniac@gmail.com. All right, thank you, my friends. Appreciate you tuning in. Have a wonderful day, and good luck this week.